The last assassin hit the floor with a sickening thud. 29 bodies already lay scattered across the restaurant, some unconscious, some groaning, none moving. And in the center of it all stood Amara Johnson. A black waitress. Still wearing her apron. Still holding a single dessert spoon. Not a single strand of her braids was out of place. Across the destroyed restaurant, Kang Jae-won, the most feared mafia boss in Seoul, stared at her with an expression he hadn't worn in 15 years. Shock. Fascination. And something dangerously close to obsession. Who? His deep voice cut through the silence. Are you? Amara's dark eyes met his cold gaze. She dropped the spoon. It clattered against the marble floor, the only sound in the room. I'm just a waitress, she said quietly. And you forgot to pay your bill. That was the night Kang Jae-won learned two things. 1. 30 of the deadliest assassins in Asia weren't enough to kill him. 2. The woman who saved him was far more dangerous than all of them combined. And falling for her. That might actually be what finally destroys him. Before we dive into this story, if you love mafia romance, strong black female leads, and forbidden love that will have you screaming, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. This story is about to get intense. Now, let's rewind to how this all started. 3 months earlier. Amara Johnson didn't believe in fate. She believed in survival. For 6 months, Seoul had been her hiding place. Her escape from a past she'd buried so deep, she sometimes convinced herself it belonged to someone else. Here, she was nobody. Just another foreigner working at The Orchid, an upscale Korean restaurant that catered to Seoul's elite. Politicians. CEOs. Celebrities. And apparently, criminals. She'd noticed him on her first day. Kang Jae-won. He came every Thursday at exactly 8 p.m. Always the same private table in the back. Always alone. Always ordering the same thing, black coffee, no food. The other waitresses avoided him like the plague. That's Kang Jae-won, her co-worker Minji had whispered on her first week. The Kang family controls everything in Gangnam. Gambling. Clubs. Things we don't talk about. Minji's eyes had been wide with fear. Don't look at him. Don't speak to him. Just bring his coffee and leave. Understand? Amara understood. She understood that men like Kang Jae-won ran the shadows of every city in the world. She'd seen their type before. Served their type before. Killed their type before. She shook that thought away. That was her old life. That woman was dead. Now she was just Amara. The quiet waitress with the American accent and the mysterious eyes. The one who never smiled. The one who kept her head down and her secrets buried. For 3 months, she served Kang Jae-won his coffee without incident. She didn't notice the way his steel-gray eyes followed her every movement. She didn't notice how he'd stopped looking at his phone when she approached. She didn't notice that he'd memorized the pattern of her braids, the rhythm of her walk, the exact shade of brown in her skin. But he noticed everything about her. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. The restaurant was closing. Amara was wiping down the last table when she heard it, a small commotion outside. Shouting. Then silence. The door burst open. A young man stumbled in, maybe 19 or 20, Korean, with blood streaming down his face. His eyes were wild with terror. Behind him, 3 men in black suits entered slowly. Predators who knew their prey had nowhere left to run. Please, the boy gasped, looking at Amara. Please help me. They're going to kill me. One of the suited men smiled coldly. Go home, waitress. This doesn't concern you. Amara's fingers tightened on her cleaning rag. Walk away, her survival instinct screamed. This is not your fight. Not your problem. Walk away. The boy fell to his knees. Tears mixed with blood. I didn't steal anything, I swear. Please. One of the men pulled out a knife. Something cracked inside Amara. Something she'd kept locked away for 2 years. Let him go. Her voice was quiet. Calm. But something in it made all 3 men turn to look at her. The leader laughed. What did you say? Amara set down her rag. I said let him go. He's just a kid. And who are you to give us orders? Someone who's asking nicely. Her eyes hardened. I won't ask twice. The man's smile vanished. He stepped toward her, knife gleaming. What happened next took exactly 4 seconds. The knife clattered to the floor. All 3 men crumpled. Amara stood over them, breathing steady, heart cold. She'd used only her hands. No weapons. No wasted movements. 3 strikes, throat, temple, solar plexus, executed with surgical precision. The boy stared at her with his mouth hanging open. And in the shadows of the restaurant, hidden in the back corner he'd been sitting in all along, Kang Jae-won watched. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago. He didn't care. He'd just witnessed something that made his blood run hot for the first time in years. The next day, the men Amara had knocked out were found unconscious in an alley 3 blocks away. No one spoke of what happened. But when Amara arrived for her shift, she found something at her station. An envelope. Inside was enough cash to pay her rent for 6 months. And a note written in elegant Korean. You have skills that don't belong in a restaurant. I have questions that need answers. Meet me at the rooftop of the Heian building. Tonight. 10 p.m. Come alone. K. Amara's hands trembled slightly. She should run. Leave Seoul tonight. Disappear again. That's what the old Amara would do. But she was tired of running. And some dark, reckless part of her wanted to know what a man like Kang Jae-won wanted with a woman like her. The Heian building was 40 floors of glass and steel, one of the tallest buildings in Gangnam. The rooftop offered a breathtaking view of Seoul's glittering skyline. Amara stepped out of the elevator at exactly 10 p.m. Kang Jae-won stood at the edge, hands in his pockets, the wind ruffling his perfectly styled black hair. His charcoal suit probably cost more than her entire year's salary. He turned as she approached. For a long moment, they simply studied each other. He was beautiful in that cold, dangerous way, sharp jawline, piercing gray eyes, lips that looked like they'd forgotten how to smile. Early 30s, she guessed. Built lean but powerful beneath his expensive clothes. You came, he said. You didn't give me much choice. A ghost of amusement flickered across his face. You could have run. I could have. She stopped a few feet away from him. Why am I here? He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. I've been watching you for 3 months, Amara Johnson. She didn't flinch at her name. That's creepy. That's thorough. He took a step closer. American passport. Orphaned at 15. Foster care until 18. Then, nothing. For 7 years, you don't exist. No records. No employment history. No social media. No footprint of any kind. His eyes narrowed. And then suddenly, 6 months ago, you appear in Seoul. Working as a waitress. Living in a tiny apartment in Mapo. Keeping your head down. Amara's heart pounded, but her face remained impassive. Maybe I just like my privacy. Maybe. Another step closer. Or maybe you're running from something. Or someone. Everyone's running from something. Not me. His voice dropped. I'm the thing people run from. Then why am I here? He stopped right in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Sandalwood and something darker. Something that made her pulse quicken against her will. "Because I saw what you did to those 3 men," he said quietly. "I've trained with the best fighters in Asia. I've hired former special forces. Assassins. Mercenaries." His gray eyes bore into hers. "None of them move like you do." Amara swallowed. "I took some self-defense classes." "Liar. You don't know me." "I want to." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "Why?" Amara whispered. For a moment, something human flickered in Kang Jae-won's cold eyes. Something almost vulnerable. "Because in 15 years running my family's empire, I've never met anyone who looks at me without fear." His jaw tightened. "You look at me like you could kill me." "Maybe I could. Maybe." A dangerous smile curved his lips. "That's what makes you interesting." He offered her a job. Not as a waitress. As something else entirely. "My enemies are circling," he explained, leading her through his penthouse, a sprawling space of marble, glass, and shadows. "Rival families. Business competitors. People who want what I have. People who want me dead. Then hire bodyguards. I have bodyguards. What I need is something different." He stopped in front of a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. "I need someone who can get close to me. Someone my enemies won't see coming. Someone who looks like she doesn't belong in my world." Amara's eyes narrowed. "You want me to be bait. I want you to be my shadow." He turned to face her. "I'll pay you 10 times what you make at the restaurant. You'll live here, in the penthouse. You'll accompany me to meetings, events, dinners. To everyone else, you'll be my..." He paused, "companion. Your girlfriend. If you want to use that word." Amara laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "I'm a black American waitress. You're a Korean mafia boss. You don't think people will talk. People always talk." His gaze was steady. "I stopped caring about whispers a long time ago. And what happens when your enemies come for you? When they try to kill you? What am I supposed to do then?" Kang Jae-won smiled, a real smile that transformed his cold face into something devastatingly handsome. "You do what you did to those 3 men in the restaurant." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a murmur. "You show them that the woman by my side is the most dangerous person in the room." Amara should have said no. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. But when she looked into Kang Jae-won's gray eyes, she saw something familiar. Something broken. Something that recognized the darkness in her. So she made her own conditions. Rule 1, I keep my secrets. You don't dig into my past. You don't ask questions I don't want to answer. Agreed. Rule 2, this is a job. Nothing more. I'm not actually your girlfriend. Something flickered in his eyes, disappointment. Amusement, but he nodded. Agreed. Rule 3, if things get too dangerous, I'm gone. No questions asked. You don't follow me. You don't find me. A longer pause. Then, agreed. Amara extended her hand. Then we have a deal. Kang Jae-won took her hand, but instead of shaking it, he raised it to his lips. His mouth brushed against her knuckles, a whisper of warmth that sent electricity shooting through her entire body. We have a deal, he murmured against her skin. Amara. The way he said her name, like it was a secret, like it was a promise, made her realize she might have just made the biggest mistake of her life. Okay, we need to pause here because things are about to get real. If you're loving this story, you need to show some love, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen next. Is Amara going to fall for Jae-won? What do you think her real secret is? Let me know in the comments. Now, back to the story. Living with Kang Jae-won was complicated. The penthouse was massive, she had her own wing, her own bedroom suite, her own everything. But somehow, they kept finding each other. In the kitchen at midnight, when neither could sleep. On the rooftop balcony at dawn, watching the sun rise over Seoul. In the quiet moments between meetings and chaos. He taught her Korean, proper Korean, the kind spoken in boardrooms and power circles. She taught him English slang and how to make sweet potato pie. He showed her the hidden art galleries he owned, filled with paintings that made her cry. She showed him the scars on her back, partially, not fully, and told him half-truths about a childhood that was anything but kind. They were learning each other. And that was dangerous. The first real test came 6 weeks into their arrangement. The annual Kang Industries Gala, a glittering event where Seoul's elite gathered to make deals, form alliances, and plot each other's downfall. Amara had never worn a dress worth more than her car. Now she stood in front of a mirror wearing custom Valentino, a crimson gown that hugged her curves and pooled at her feet like blood. Her braids were twisted into an elaborate updo, gold thread woven throughout. Diamond earrings caught the light. She looked like a queen. She felt like a weapon. Kang Jae-won appeared behind her in the mirror. He wore a black suit so perfectly tailored it looked painted on. His hair was slicked back, revealing the sharp planes of his face. His eyes swept over her, and for a moment, his mask slipped. You look. He paused, searching for words. Dangerous. Is that a compliment? The highest one I give. He offered his arm. She took it. They walked into the gala together, and the entire room fell silent. All eyes turned to them. The whispers started immediately. Who is she? An American? A black woman? With Kang Jae-won? His lover? His bodyguard? His toy? Where did she come from? Who is she? Amara kept her chin high. Her face neutral. Her grip on Jae-won's arm steady. He leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. Ignore them. I've been ignored my whole life, she murmured back. Being stared at is a nice change. He chuckled, a rare, genuine sound. You continue to surprise me. Good. Predictable women are boring. The gala was elegant, extravagant, and exhausting. Amara smiled until her face hurt. Made small talk in her improving Korean. Pretended to be the devoted companion of a man she was absolutely not catching feelings for. It was almost midnight when she felt it. A shift in the air. A prickle at the back of her neck. The instinct that had saved her life more times than she could count. Something was wrong. She scanned the room. Everything looked normal. Guests laughing. Champagne flowing. Music playing. But there, near the east entrance. 2 servers who moved differently than the others. Too alert. Too controlled. And there, by the bar. A woman in a silver dress whose posture screamed military training. And there, on the balcony. A man pretending to smoke, but his eyes were fixed on Jae-won. 4. No, 5. At least 5 threats in the room. Amara's heart rate didn't change. Her breathing stayed steady. But her mind shifted into a mode she hadn't accessed in 2 years. Combat mode. She tightened her grip on Jae-won's arm. We need to leave, she said quietly. Now. He looked down at her, saw the change in her eyes, and didn't hesitate. Back exit. My car is waiting. They moved through the crowd casually, naturally, 2 lovers slipping away early. No rush. No panic. They almost made it. 10 feet from the exit, the lights went out. Screaming. Chaos. Gunshots. In the darkness, Amara moved. She kicked off her heels, grabbed Jaewon's hand, and pulled him behind a marble pillar as bullets tore through the space where they'd been standing. "Stay down," she hissed. "Like hell. Jaewon." Her voice was ice. "Stay down." He saw something in her eyes that silenced him. And then Amara Johnson stopped being a waitress. The emergency lights flickered on, dim red, casting everything in a bloody glow. 12 attackers. Amara counted them in seconds. 6 had guns. 4 had knives. 2 had their bare hands, which meant they were the most dangerous, confident enough in their skills to need no weapons. They were moving through the panicked crowd, heading toward the pillar where Jaewon hid. Amara stepped into their path. "Going somewhere?" she asked calmly. The lead attacker laughed. "Move aside, pretty girl. We don't want to hurt you." "You can't hurt me." She tilted her head. "But I appreciate the concern." The first one lunged. What happened next became a legend in Seoul's underworld. Amara moved like water and struck like lightning. She disarmed the first gunman, broke his wrist, and used his own weapon to take down 2 more before they could react. When the gun ran empty, she didn't reload, she threw it at the 4th attacker's face, shattering his nose, and closed the distance before he could recover. 5 down in 10 seconds. The remaining 7 circled her warily now. They'd underestimated her. They wouldn't make that mistake again. They attacked together. It didn't help. Amara wove between them like a ghost. Every movement precise. Every strike devastating. She used their own momentum against them, turning their strength into weakness. She shattered kneecaps. Dislocated shoulders. Collapsed windpipes. It was brutal. Beautiful. Terrifying. By the time it was over, 43 seconds from start to finish, all 12 attackers were on the ground. Amara stood in the center of the carnage, breathing evenly. Her Valentino gown was splattered with blood. None of it was hers. Jaewon emerged from behind the pillar, his face pale. "Amara." She turned to him. And he saw it, her mask had cracked. The cold, controlled killer was still there, lurking behind her eyes. The woman she tried so hard to bury. "We need to go," she said flatly. They were the first wave. More are coming. First wave. He grabbed her arm. "How do you know that?" "Because this is what I used to do." She pulled free, her eyes haunted. "This is who I used to be." They made it to the penthouse safely. Jaewon tripled security. Locked down the building. Called in favors from allies he didn't even like. But Amara knew it wasn't enough. She sat by the window, still in her blood-stained gown, watching the city lights. Jaewon poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Handed her one. Sat beside her. For a long time, neither spoke. Then. "You said you used to be someone else," he said quietly. "Tell me." Rule 1. You don't dig into my past. You saved my life tonight. He turned to face her. That changes things. Amara was silent for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then she began to speak. "I wasn't raised by foster families." Her voice was flat, detached. "That's just the cover story. The truth is, I was recruited at 15. Taken off the streets after my mother overdosed. Brought into a program." "What kind of program?" "The kind that doesn't exist. The kind governments deny. The kind that takes broken children and turns them into weapons." Jaewon's jaw tightened. "You were trained as an assassin. I was trained as a ghost." Her hand tightened on the glass. "For 7 years, I did things, unspeakable things. For people who never showed their faces. I was their instrument. Their scalpel. Their solution to problems that couldn't be solved any other way. And then, And then I was given an order I couldn't follow. Her voice finally cracked. A target I couldn't kill. Who? A child. Amara closed her eyes. They wanted me to kill a child. The silence between them was heavy. I said no, she continued. For the first time in 7 years, I refused. And then I ran. I've been running for 2 years. Hiding. Trying to become someone new. Someone who doesn't have blood on her hands. But the blood never really washes off. Jaewon's voice was gentle. Does it? Amara finally looked at him, really looked at him, and saw no judgment in his eyes. No disgust. Only understanding. No, she whispered. It doesn't. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she didn't realize she'd shed. We're the same, he said softly. Both shaped by violence. Both trying to be something other than what they made us. You're a mafia boss. And you're an assassin. A sad smile curved his lips. We're perfect for each other. That's a terrible love story. Maybe. He leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. But it's ours. That night, Amara Johnson broke rule number 2. She kissed Kang Jae-won like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to destroy her. And he kissed her back like she was the air he'd forgotten he needed to breathe. Falling in love with a mafia boss was complicated. Falling in love while being hunted by your former employers. That was a nightmare. But for 3 months, Amara lived in the eye of the hurricane. She and Jaewon didn't define what they were. They didn't need to. It was in the way he reached for her hand during meetings. In the way she positioned herself between him and every door. In the late nights spent tangled together, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his father, a cold, brutal man who'd raised him to be a weapon. Who'd beaten emotions out of him the way her handlers had beaten resistance out of her. She told him about the children in the program, the ones who didn't survive, the ones who broke, the ones who became monsters. They were healing each other. Slowly. Imperfectly. But healing. Until the night everything fell apart. It was supposed to be a simple dinner. Jaewon had taken over a small restaurant in Itaewon, one of his legitimate businesses. Closed it for the night. Just the two of them, a private chef, and a dozen guards outside. A celebration. 3 months since she'd entered his world. Amara wore white this time, a stark contrast to the red of the gala. Jaewon said she looked like an angel. She'd laughed and said angels didn't know 40 ways to kill someone with a fork. He'd kissed her and said that's exactly what made her his angel. Dessert had just arrived, sweet patbingsu with all the toppings, when the power went out. Not again. Amara was on her feet before the emergency lights kicked in. This time, she didn't count 5 threats. She counted 30. They came through every entrance. The windows. The kitchen. Even the ceiling, crashing through skylights like something out of a nightmare. These weren't ordinary attackers. These were professionals. Elite. Coordinated. And on each of their wrists, she saw a familiar mark, 3 interlocked circles. Her blood ran cold. The triad of shadows. Her former employers. They'd finally found her. Amara. The lead assassin stepped forward, a tall Korean man with dead eyes and a face she recognized. Sung-hoon. Her former handler. It's time to come home. I don't have a home, she said flatly. Not anymore. Then you'll come back to your grave. His eyes flicked to Jaewon. Along with your new pet. Jaewon moved to stand beside her. I'm no one's pet. Stay behind me, Amara said quietly. Not a chance. Jaewon. We fight together. His gray eyes burned with determination. Or we die together. Despite everything, warmth bloomed in her chest. Fine, she murmured. But if you get yourself killed, I'll be very annoyed. He actually smirked. I'd hate to annoy you. Sung-hoon raised his hand. 30 assassins attacked. Jae-won was a skilled fighter. Years of training. Combat experience. Ruthless instincts. He took down 3 attackers before a 4th got lucky, a blade slicing across his ribs, dropping him to one knee. Jae-won. Amara screamed. She fought toward him, but the assassins kept coming. Wave after wave. They were trying to separate them. Trying to isolate her. No. Something snapped inside her. Not the cold, controlled assassin she trained herself to be. Something older. Rawer. More primal. She grabbed the nearest object, the dessert spoon from their abandoned patbingsu, and became death incarnate. The spoon became a blur. It crushed eye sockets. Shattered throats. Pierced pressure points that no one should know existed. She used it like an extension of her own body, a tiny, innocent weapon that became apocalyptic in her hands. 5 down. 10. 15. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Every assassin that fell was a message. A declaration. He is mine. And I will destroy anyone who tries to take him from me. 20. 25. By the time she reached Sung-hoon, she'd cleared a path of bodies through the restaurant. Impossible, he breathed, backing away. No one person could. Amara drove the spoon through his shoulder, pinning him to the wall. Tell them I'm done running, she said, her voice deadly calm. Tell them Amara Johnson is dead. And if they come for me again, if they even look at the man I love, I won't leave survivors next time. I'll burn your entire organization to the ground. She twisted the spoon. He screamed. Do we understand each other? He nodded frantically. She released him, and he fled, the sole survivor, carrying her message back to the shadows. Amara stood in the destroyed restaurant, surrounded by 29 unconscious bodies, blood dripping from her spoon. Jae-won was staring at her. She expected horror. Fear. Disgust. Instead, she saw awe. Who? His deep voice cut through the silence. Are you? She dropped the spoon. It clattered against the marble floor. I'm just a waitress, she said quietly. And you forgot to pay your bill. He laughed, actually laughed, even as blood seeped from his wound. Then he rose, crossed to her, and kissed her like the world was ending. 1 year later. The restaurant was rebuilt. Renovated. Renamed. The Spoon. Because Amara had a sense of humor about these things. It became a legend in Seoul, the place where a black American woman had single-handedly defeated 30 assassins with a dessert utensil. Some said it was exaggerated. Some said it was impossible. Those who'd been there knew the truth. Amara no longer worked as a waitress. She was something else now, something that existed in the spaces between legal and illegal, light and shadow. Kang Jae-won's partner. His protector. His equal. His wife. The wedding had been small, just them, his trusted lieutenants, and a handful of her friends from the restaurant. No big ceremony. No white dress. She'd worn red. He'd cried. Neither of them talked about it. Amara stood on the rooftop of their penthouse, watching the sun rise over Seoul. The same rooftop where he'd first propositioned her. Where their story had truly begun. Arms wrapped around her from behind. Jae-won's chin rested on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? He murmured. How I ended up here. She leaned back into him. A year ago, I was running. Hiding. Convinced I'd never deserve anything good. And now? She turned in his arms, cupping his face, this cold, dangerous, beautiful man who'd seen her darkness and chosen to love her anyway. Now I'm home. He kissed her forehead. Her nose. Her lips. I love you, he said quietly. My assassin. My angel. My chaos. I love you too. She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes. My Mafia boss. My partner. My peace. Somewhere in the city below, their enemies were still plotting. Still scheming. Still thinking they could tear down the empire J1 and Amara had built together. They didn't know yet. The most dangerous couple in Seoul was just getting started. And that is the end. Oh my goodness, if you made it this far, you are a real one. I need you to do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. This is the kind of content we're bringing to this channel, and there's so much more coming. Drop a comment below, did you love Amara and J1? Who's your favorite character? What kind of story do you want to see next? Should I make a part 2? Let me know. And if you want to see more Afro-Korean stories, more strong female leads, more forbidden romance, you know what to do. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Share this with a friend who needs this in their life. I love you all. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.